Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Film Club podcast, where every month we take an actor, director, genre, or topic, and we deep dive into it. And this month is Anime Month, and this week we're talking about...
Well, I think you should drop it, because this is one of your favorite movies.
It's not one of my favorite movies, but it's based off one of my favorite properties, and that's Case Closed, the Time Bombed Skyscraper.
And it's also our last installment of Anime Month.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And we're gonna finish it off by doing the first Case Closed the movie. And for those who don't know what Case Closed is, it's also known as Detective Conan in the rest of the world. It's a anime series based off of a manga that follows the story of Jimmy Kudo, teenage detective who gets shrunk down to a small child and solves mysteries, and it's just wonderful.
And how many of these manga do you own?
Currently I own 47. They're up to 80, so I'm a little bit behind.
Are you sure? Because when you pulled out the manga the other day, I mean, it looked like over 100 books.
If I collected all of my manga together, I might have 100 of them. But
just Case Closed.
Just Case Closed is 47 because I have everything from 1 up until I got out of high school or something. So yeah, I am still a huge fan of Case Closed. Also, I'm going to refer to it as Case Closed because
and not Detective Conan.
Because I'm a dirty American that grew up with this on Adult Swim.
But you love Conan the Barbarian so much, so I figure...
It helps me separate the two properties, you know?
I figure this is a tie-in to how you got into the series because you love Conan so much.
Well, Conan the Barbarian came up much later in life.
Oh, okay. Because I know that's another thing when we're out, book hunting. That's something, anytime I find a Conan, I gotta alert you.
Well, here's the thing. I love the Conan the Barbarian novels. Mm-hmm. If anyone out there ever gets a chance to read them, they're really fun. They're goofy also adventure movies.
They're like pocket novels, right?
Yeah. Well, okay. Hello, everybody. We're getting into tangents early today. So Conan the Barbarian, it was written by Robert E. Howard. Mm-hmm. He was this pulp fiction writer back in the 20s and 30s and stuff like that. And Conan the Barbarian, the novelettes were in adventure magazine or pulp fiction magazines or Weird Tales and stuff like that. So the novels are just a bunch of collections of short stories. Most of them aren't super long. He did write a couple of novels in that world, but they're just so fun. I burned through those a bunch. And also the Frank Frazetta art, those covers from the 60s or 70s are Kino. Pure Kino. It is true cinema. I would love to do the Conan the Barbarian movies. They're just great.
So be prepared. I'm sure someday we'll have a Conan month.
One day. But we're talking about Conan Edogawa, the pseudonym for Jimmy Kudo, the teenage detective extraordinaire.
So tell everybody how you got into Case Closed.
Yeah, that is, okay. This is the deep lore video of Dean, because I've been into Case Closed since I was 7, I think, 7 or 8. Because I was young wee lad. Borders was still open, the bookstore, Borders. Yes. And I went in there to buy One Piece manga, because One Piece literally just debuted in America. Just happened on Toonami or some shit. I was I like One Piece, so I'd pick up One Piece books, but they weren't a lot of them. And my mom was well, I don't know what the fuck these are, so just grab another one until the next One Piece comes out.
Yeah.
So I was well, Case Closed, that looks kind of neato. It's mysteries. I kind of like mysteries. So I picked it up.
He's a kid. I'm a kid.
He's a kid. I'm a kid. And I picked it up and I was these are awesome. They're they're short story mysteries. And they're not fuck you mysteries. A lot of them, almost all of them, when you figure out who the killer is, when, Conan reveals everything and does all the tricks and all that stuff, you can go back and when you read the story again, you're oh, it's so obvious. It's all here.
Yeah.
There's none of it is hidden behind smoke and mirrors and fuck you, here's evidence you never saw before and we're gonna trick you. And no, it's all there, but it's so well written because once they explain it to you, it becomes so obvious. It's of course. Sherlock, how you amaze me.
Yes.
And I fell in love with it. I love mysteries, and every time I went back to Borders, I would just pick them up until Borders closed its doors, and then I went to, like...
Barnes & Noble?
Barnes & Noble, other comic book shops, stuff like that. But no one carried Case Closed for years. I want that to be known.
Also, R.I.P. Borders, because that was the spot back in the day.
It was. It was, like, right at the mall by my house. But that's the thing. Case Closed is, like, negative popularity in America. Like, people have no idea what the fuck this is when I talk about it.
I mean, I had no idea what it was, and you've been telling me about this for as long as we've been dating. It's just, oh yeah, I love Case Closed. And I was just
okay. I'm gonna hold you up right there, because I remember when I, like, 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, when I was like, this is the movie we're gonna watch, and you're like, what is that? I'm like, do you not know I'm into this? And you're like, what are you talking about? And then I showed you the manga, and you talked to my brother, and Randy was like, that's the deep shit. That's the stuff that's from the deep childhood.
But I mean, it's something that I'd never seen before, so it's not like I could say, I have a vague idea of what Case Closed is. It's like, yes, you've talked about it for years, but it's like, I had absolutely zero platform of understanding
what the fuck it actually was.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be like me, telling you I love Pokemon, and it's like, if you didn't...
What's that extent of that?
No, but like, if you had never, heard of it, you'd be like, oh, okay. I don't know what it is, but, she likes it. It's like, okay.
And you really love Pokemon.
I do, but...
Pokemon was, like, your pick last year for the franchise movie of the month.
It was, and after seeing this and, kind of learning more about Case Closed, Detective Conan, it's like, oh, okay, so we've got two franchises here with a very, very deep history.
Yeah.
Because I think they both came out at around the same time, right? Because this movie's from 97.
Yeah, so Case Closed, the series, premiered in, oh god, I want to say like 94?
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah. So the original run is from 1994 all the way to today. It's still running.
Yeah.
They have released 101 volumes of the manga. The animated series, I think it's the fourth longest running anime in Japan.
Wow.
I think it's still releasing episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I know you say wow, but like, what? Ooh, like, you want to try and catch up on One Piece? We'll get to current in about 3 years. It is ridiculous how long these things go. But yeah, it's a huge like franchise. It's super popular in Japan. They have like 20 movies, I think. And I mean, like, legit, like, 20 feature films in the canon. It's not like 3 episodes mushed together and they release it. No, like, 3 fully produced films. I think there's 2 live-action movies. And I don't watch anything that's not dubbed because I'm a fucking plebeian about this shit and I'm a purist.
I mean, you do have a nice new TV, so if you did want to do dubbed, or I'm sorry, if you did want to do subbed, you can see the subtitles.
I know, but I started...
You're not going to be as far away anymore where it's just like, what is that on the screen? It's off, Dean. The TV's not on. Oh, okay.
I know. But the thing is, I started watching this series with only the English dub. I had no idea that it was from Japan. That's how young I was when I started this. I was like, I just thought they were like cartoons that some weird studio did. I thought all of like anime was like a production was like a company. Oh, well, all these anime comes from an anime company. When I started, I was like 6, 7, something like that.
Yeah,
I was a fucking dumb kid. But
no.
Yeah, I love Case Closed. It's a major franchise. It's just one of these franchises that's always been super cult in America, and it never really took off like One Piece or Naruto or like Bleach or Yu Yu Hakusho or Cowboy Bebop Dragon, so on and so forth. All the anime that have kind of found a cultural niche that they've like hung on to. This has always been like, if you know, you know, and if you don't, then you don't really care because it's just Murder, She Wrote, but with sci-fi stuff. And
no Angela Lansbury.
No, actually.
Did she make a cameo in this?
Not in this movie.
No, but like in the series or any of the movies?
There's a okay. This is great, everyone. So if you ever get into the manga of Case Closed, in the back of every manga is like the author Gosho Oyama. He's like a huge mystery fan, so he'll do little bios and like suggestions of like, hey, if you like mysteries, here's some cool mystery stuff you can get into. The first one's like Sherlock Holmes, then it's like Augustus Lupin,
Yeah.
or, like, you know, famous mystery detectives, Ellery Queen, and Angela Lansbury from, like, Murder, She Wrote. Like, she's in one of the volumes I own.
That's awesome.
And he suggests, like, hey, if you like mysteries, maybe you should watch this thing. She's in Murder, She Wrote. These are some episodes you'll like.
Those are good shows.
Yeah, Columbo's in, like, the 6th or 7th manga.
Oh, God. If you guys don't know, Dean loves Columbo, I think, more than anybody.
No. I don't love Columbo. My dad loves Columbo. My dad has seen...
Are you sure?
Oh, no. My dad has seen every single Columbo, like, 3 or 4 times. He loves that stuff. Columbo, Monk, Psych.
Because you talk about Columbo a lot, so I think you got some love in there.
It's just because I can do a pretty good Peter Falk. And one more thing, because the key to a good Peter Falk is convincingly portraying a fake eye playing a real eye. Just, you gotta squint one eye, you know, because Columbo had a glass eye.
Yeah.
But, besides the point. But, yeah, if you really like mysteries, like, Case Closed is, like, great. It is S-tier mystery writing. It is so much fun because it also knows it doesn't have to take itself super seriously.
No.
You know, there's a lot of mysteries, and, like, in this movie, we'll finally get around to this movie.
Yeah.
It's about, like a domestic terrorist blowing up buildings and all these architecture things and
all
bridges.
these locations that are loaded with people.
Loaded with people. He has no care for human life. He's literally blowing up these things. Domestic terrorist thing. And intertwined with this very serious subject, you know, murder, terrorism, all these other things, it's also filled with kind of a sitcom style humor and, like, a romantic undertone to the relationship between Jimmy and Rachel, and also Richard Moore plays, like, the bumbling buffoon.
Yeah.
And that's the key to this. It's a great genre mashup. It's you know, pretty serious, like, mystery fiction, some, like, goofy sitcom comedy, some, like, really heartfelt, even though it's a little sometimes, like, cringy romance stuff going on.
Yeah.
But it's all, like, good fun. Like, I think that's, like, the wonderful thing about this series is there's, it works on a lot of different things at once.
There's a lot of different things in there for everybody. So it's not like, oh, it's just some kid's show. It's like, no, there's, you know, romantic elements to it. There's humorous elements to it. There's the mystery itself for people that love, you know, kind of crime dramas where it's just, okay, you know, we have a domestic terrorist. Why is he picking the locations that he's picking?
What's the motivation?
What's the motive behind this behavior? Will we ever find out who this person is, or will he continue to do this and just keep, you know, destroying the city? Yeah.
I mean, in this movie in particular, because we both picked out who the perpetrator was pretty early.
Yeah.
Wait, before I go on, I'll give everybody the quick plot synopsis, because I've been accused of just purposely trying to skip plot synopsis because they're pains in the asses.
Who accused you of that?
One of our listeners, probably our only listener.
Was it Greg?
It was Matt.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Oh, it's just Matt.
I know. It's fine, you know. Yeah, but the premise of the movie is Conan Edogawa, he's going through the mail that's mailed to his original self, you know, Jimmy Kudo. And he finds that, oh, he's been invited to this highfalutin architect in the city. And he's like, oh, well, I can't go, so I'll invite, you know, Richard Moore and his daughter Rachel, and also me, Conan, who's posing as, like, a relative to go with them, right?
Yeah.
And they get there, and this architect, he has been, like, working into the city, and he's been building these beautiful buildings and doing all these wonderful things. And as the story goes on, suddenly all of his architectural achievements are being destroyed, bombed by a mysterious domestic terrorist, blowing these up for it's seemingly no apparent reason other than to cause chaos. And as the mystery unravels and we slowly realize who the killer is, or I guess the bomber is, and why he's targeting all these things, and then it all gets wrapped up in a nice little bow when Conan picks out who the monster is after Richard Moore makes a total buffoon of himself by accusing literally everyone else in the room.
Pretty much.
And it ends with a race against time as the final bomb explodes in the skyscraper where Rachel is hiding, or, well, she's waiting for Jamie to show up for a date that he's never going to show up to. And
that's why the final bomb is placed in that building so that Jimmy could also be killed with Rachel.
Yes. And as the race against time, Jimmy has to deduce the sequence to cut the bomb's wires to defuse it.
They're literally down to the wire trying to get this done.
And it gets down, and Rachel's in there following the orders of Jimmy because she trusts him so much, and then it finally gets down to the last 2 wires that the bomber smartly didn't put in the blueprints. And now it's only up to fate to decide whether or not they live or die by cutting the wire. And because this is a franchise and this is the first out of 20, you can guess she guesses right.
Yes, otherwise...
It'd be a really weird series if, like, every movie, it was a different protagonist, or they just died in every one, like Kenny from South Park.
We get a new Conan, or, like Kenny, he refreshes and he's back for the next movie.
I gotta ask you this. Kenny, was it like a thing where they just, like, press refresh and he just kind of, like, booted back into the world, or...
You're the bigger South Park fan than I am, so I think you would know that better than I would.
Well, the in-universe explanation is that Kenny's parents are, like, Cthulhu worshippers, and when Kenny dies, his mom just gives birth to him at the end of the night, and he just, like, grows up in bed overnight to be whatever.
Poor Kenny's mom. I mean...
Could you imagine
having to give birth every day?
At least once a week for, like, 20 years.
Oh my god.
That is murder. You could probably, like, throw a stone into her and you'd hear an echo.
Not a stone, a cannonball.
Oh, Lord. But, yeah, so they solve the bomb, they figure out the perpetrator, and it's a very, nice ending, and it kind of ends with a little bit of, like, cutesy romance cheese, because Rachel.
Well, where's Jimmy? Oh, Conan. Oh, well, he ran off again. He has another case he has to go follow. Yeah, he's always so busy. And I'm just like, what girlfriend would be like, are you kidding? We almost died in this building and then you just up and take off?
Okay, so that's the thing. Technically, Rachel and Jimmy aren't actually boyfriend and girlfriend. Technically. They've been, like, best friends since they were, like, little kids.
Okay.
And they've, like, grown up together, and it's always, like, the thing in the manga and in the anime and in the series is it's not like a will they or won't they. It's a thing where you realize immediately that they are madly in love with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But Jimmy, being a world famous teenage detective, is kind of one of those I'm wrapped up in my
work and I don't notice anything else.
Yeah, he's a little bit oblivious, and Rachel's also maybe not a little shy about it, but she's kind of a thing where no, Jimmy. I need you to make the first move here because that's how this works, kind of thing. And then and it's kind of a thing where as the series goes on, you just so want them to just get together, happy ending, all this other stuff. And it's a very interesting thing where eventually it's going to happen, but we're 101 volumes in and it ain't happened yet. I'm still waiting.
Maybe come 200, 300, we'll finally get there.
I want to say Gosho Oyama has said the final arc of Case Closed for Detective Conan will be Jimmy and Rachel finally getting together. I want to say that was a thing he's made mention of, because he wants to end it, with a happy ending, right?
Or is that just something you dream about every night?
Every single night. But yeah, so that's the premise of the movie.
Yeah.
But back to what we were saying, we figured out who the perpetrator was pretty early, like about 20-30 minutes in.
Definitely, yeah.
But the real intrigue was why.
Exactly. Because you have this beautiful city and he's contributed so much to it. Why are you not only destroying your work, destroying human lives? Yeah,
and when he finally gives the explanation, when Conan deduces why it happened and how it interconnects with not only his previous cases, but like the architecture and why, and kind of the regrets of a young artist. And it's a very interesting motivation, because it's obviously the motivations of a crazy person.
Yeah.
But you can kind of relate to it, because it's somebody who looks at work others consider a masterpiece, and you continually look at it as just being a flawed childish ambition, and it haunts you as that is what I'll be remembered for, but it is not even close to what the best I can do. It is an embarrassment unto my legacy.
I mean, that's a part of being an artist in general, because, I mean, you create something, and it's, it's beautiful, people react to it, they love it, and the more you look at it, even before you present it, you're like, oh, wow, this actually came out really nice. And it's just the more you keep looking at it, you notice the little cracks, and it's just like, I'm like, I'm seeing that. Is someone who else is gonna, see this, notice this piece of it, or is that just me? And it's just, you see that he's just really kind of, falling into madness when it's just like, dude, take the win. You're creative. You're talented.
You're rich, famous.
You're rich. It's like, why do you need to hurt so many people because you're so miserable?
Well, I'm gonna name drop it. You know what I'm gonna name drop? Another piece of art that the artist continually had to go back and tweak. The Star Wars. Because you can see the parallel, right? Because this comes out in, 1997.
Yeah.
I believe the special editions of Star Wars came out about 97, 96, something like that.
I think so.
So, I'm almost wondering if this is, a commentary about an artist's regret of his own art and him trying to change it to make it quote-unquote better. Because, okay, your thoughts on George Lucas tweaking Star Wars? Han shooting first, putting in the CGI of all the animals and stuff like that. I mean,
Han did shoot first, but once we get into Phantom Menace.
Oh, I'm talking about
or Attack of the Clones,
New Hope, Empire, Jedi. When he did all that stuff.
What when he enhanced the lightsabers? They weren't the original pale blue. It was neon blue.
He recolored a lot of it. When the Death Star blows up, it's a completely different CGI effect. And the whole thing where, Han shooting first, and when he changed it, he made it so Guido shoot it first, and Han shot second, because, I don't want Han to be the bad guy, I don't want him to be the dirty scoundrel. I want him to be a reactive blah, blah, blah.
I haven't seen the, original stuff in a very long time.
It's so hard to get a hold of.
It is. So, I'm used to the remastered stuff because whatever time in the 90s that was done, early 90s, I was still kind of becoming a person, so I wasn't really too aware. It's I grew up with Star Wars, but it's just...
The point where you were forming real memories of Star Wars, the special edition was your Star Wars.
Yeah, because when you brought up, the comparison of, him, progressing and try to change things up, I was thinking of, the prequels where we were getting a lot more green screen and less practical effects. And it's yes, I get it, in technology, embrace it, but I think that's what made the originals so much better, because they were handcrafted, they were real, you could actually see them, touch them. And that's what I think, with Case Closed, he's done that. The architect has done that, but it's not enough. I've got to, change it up and, really wipe the slate clean. And to do that, I literally have to blow up the city because I can't get the approval that I was going to get from the corrupt mayor of the city.
Yeah, or the city councilman. But yeah, so I just think it's very interesting, his motivation as a villain.
And the fact that we get the red herring with Detective Santos?
Santos, yeah.
Santos. And it's just because right off the bat, I'm like, okay, this guy's the bad guy, Yeah.
Oh, you felt that red herring?
Yeah, because, you start to see Detective Santos, and, he starts, talking, oh, I love architecture, and he's kind of a little on the quiet side, reserved side, and it's
he's a little bit too knowledgeable about this guy's particular architecture for it to be, a total coincidence.
So it's it would be genius, you're a detective. Technically, you could work this case while also being the person that's being looked for.
He's also never around when the bomber calls. He's always he's
leaving the room.
And that's the thing. And that's why I really enjoy the dynamics in the film. Mm-hmm. Because Richard Moore, who is the detective that Conan kind of uses as a surrogate to solve crimes, because he can't solve them as Conan because he's a little kid.
He's a little boy, yeah.
Yeah, he uses his gadgets and wizardry, quote unquote, to, like, knock out Richard Moore, and then he uses his bow tie to, like, talk as Richard Moore to give the evidence.
That was something that I did really like about this movie, was the gadgets.
Yes.
Because I'm like, okay, it feels kind of like Spy Kids a little bit, because they actually do have, like, junior detectives that are children that are learning, and it's and it's like, they're smart, but they're not Jimmy.
Yeah. The kids, the Junior Detective League of George, Mitch, Amy, didn't have to look that up. I know all these names, by the way.
Wow.
Yeah, George, Mitch, and Amy, they're the Junior Detective League, and it's like, they're smart kids. They can solve, like, capers and, little crimes, but they are so innocent about it. Like, Jimmy / Conan is doing all the legwork for real deductive reasoning.
Well,
but they're very clever.
They're clever, but they're also children, where Jimmy's in a child's body, but he really has the brain of an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old?
16, 17. That's how old Jimmy and Rachel are in the series.
But he's like, he doesn't have the brain of just a 16-year-old. He's like a seasoned detective, a genius that is able to figure these things out. And I like that we get glimpses into who Jimmy was at the same time, and it's not just Conan.
Yeah.
It's not just a voice where we hear Jimmy, talk on the phone to somebody. It's, we get to see him in action.
I wanted to ask you that, because, again, you have zero background in this at
Zero
all.
background, zero knowledge of this.
And at the beginning of this movie, they do kind of like the movie's not going to start yet. It's Conan introducing the world, where he's like, hi,
I like that.
That really helped.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of felt like when it is a show and a manga, but it feels like the beginning of a show where you're kind of getting a layout of the land and the characters and what's happening. So I could see where it would be kind of like the show. I could see, where there would be commercial breaks within this movie, but I really love the setup of, okay, I am this person, and this is how I solve mysteries, and I use,
these gadgets, I use my tranquilizer watch, I use my voice-changing bow tie, I have my, solar-powered, like, motorized skateboard, and I have my super shoes that let me kick things really hard.
Weren't they, like, supersonic shoes or something? They had a name to them, and I think that was my favorite gadget of his, apart from the bow tie.
Yeah.
Because he was just like, yeah, I could super kick with these, and they also, keep me from getting tired, and I'm like, bruh, I'm getting old. I need some of those shoes where my feet aren't killing me.
Well, that's the thing about the show lore, the franchise lore, because Jimmy Kudo, he is not only a master detective, he's also a avid soccer fanatic, right? He, like, plays soccer a lot because outside of America, soccer is the most important game in the world.
It is.
And he's, like, a really good soccer player. And the thing is Jimmy's not an expert martial artist, but he could nail somebody from, 20 yards in the dome with just about anything he could kick.
Yeah.
So, but when Jimmy turned into Conan and lost the body of, like, a 17-year-old and got one of, like, an 8 or 9-year-old, he lost all, like, the kicking power. So that's why he has the super shoes, so he can kick, like, name famous soccer player for me.
Ronaldo.
Messi. There you go.
Giroud.
He can kick like Giroud.
Okay.
But and that's like the gimmick as to why it's like that. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I want a pair of those shoes.
I think they make them. They don't make you kick like Beckham, but you can find them. You can find the ones that they look cool and they light up and the twins or whatever the fuck.
All right. But yeah, I like that it. Take it back to Pokemon, when we were watching the movie for last year of the podcast, that was something that you had said, that you could see where the commercial breaks would be throughout the movie. And that's how, when I was watching the movie, I'm like, okay, I could see where we would break for a commercial. And I was kind of like, well, I wouldn't mind watching the show. This is pretty entertaining. There wasn't really a lull in it. It's like,
the movie's fast.
It's fast. It has a good pace to it. I'm gonna keep saying it's entertaining because it was. I didn't feel like, oh man, this is so boring and I've got to get through like another half hour of this. I was like, no, I was like genuinely invested. I'm like, okay, there's 5 bombs on the train tracks and there's multiple trains running. I'm like, how are they gonna figure this out when they can't go beneath 60 miles per hour? Like,
yeah, you're watching the movie Speed with like Keanu.
Yes, and I was just like, okay, Are the bombs on the trains? Is that why they can't go,
below
60? Are they on the tracks?
Is it a thing where they're not even on either of those? Maybe it's the bomber has set up a thing in somewhere in the city, and this is all just a distraction.
On in a tunnel. It's like just trying to figure out where is it, why is it put there, and how are they going to defuse this?
Yeah, and it's so interesting.
Because that could have been the rest of the movie, is them trying to figure out how they were going to save the people from the trains.
Yeah, that is a whole movie. Again, that's just speed.
Yeah.
But, because this movie is a tight 90.
Yeah.
It's a very tight 90. The pacing of the movie, again, like you said, no lulls, it just moves. This was so breezy for me to watch. Because, granted, I really love the franchise, but also, just watching it, I'm like, oh, okay, we're like getting into like the third or fourth, the third bombing thing, and I checked the time, like, the movie's almost over?
Yeah.
I've really been sitting here for like over an hour, and I thought like, wait, we're just getting into like mid-second act or whatever.
And it's not that long of a movie, it's an hour 30, so it's not like, it's 2 hours, 2.5 hours, where it's like, I got a ways to go.
Even if you say, oh, it moves really well, it's still like a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
It's very rare when you get like a 3-hour movie that's paced phenomenally where you don't feel the 3 hours.
Nope, just a breeze.
Very few.
But this one, that's kind of how it felt, where I was like, okay, like, we're moving pretty fast. I had some buffering problems during my watch of the movie, so I had to get up and rebuffer the internet a couple of times to get it, but it was like the last 20-ish minutes of the movie, and I was kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna power through because I don't want to watch the majority and then come back in the morning and, oh yeah, I remember, this and that from last night. It's like, no, I want to finish.
Invested.
I was invested. I'm like, I need to see how this ends.
Yeah, and I think that's a real benefit of the movie. Don't let me... Okay. I'm gonna just put it out there. This is not, cinematic artistry. It is very much a franchise movie. It's a movie that uses the same elements of the TV show and just expands it into 90 minutes. Yeah. It's not trying to, be Citizen Kane. But in just raw entertainment value, it really, really is fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun watch.
And it's not, overly complicated where you'd be like, well, would a 16-year-old really be able to figure this out? It's just, the key pieces, and that's kind of a thing that he says. He's very into, like, the little details.
I have a keen eye for details, and one truth prevails. That is the tagline of the show.
Yeah, so it's like small things, like where the architect is ready to blow up the house with Conan and the rest of the police there, and Conan's already figured out, oh, this is really not a lighter, it's a detonator. And he's just like, how did you figure that out? Well, at the garden party, you were using, like, actual matches. You weren't using a lighter, so...
Why would you have a lighter in your study? Mm-hmm. And also, he couldn't find the bomber's, like, disguise, so he makeshifted his own disguise, so when the bomber saw it, he's like, how did you find it? I hid it in the study! And he's like, so that's where you did, because this wasn't your disguise, but now we know exactly where it is.
He's like, I just put, like, the soot from coal on my glasses to make them look like sunglasses. I cut off,
like, the plume on a helmet and got a mop and just, like, made it look good. Mm-hmm. And... That's the thing. The mystery of the film never feels like he's just pulling shit out of his ass. It's very much, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we've never seen him use a lighter, and we see him smoking all the time. He only uses matches. That's like a reveal where it's like, wait, watch back through the movie. Oh, yeah, no, like, that's an obvious deductive leap you could make.
Yeah, it's very clever. It's very smart. And it's like, I kind of like a show that... where it's not too overly complicated, but it's like, yeah, I need to pay attention to every second of it because I could be picking up clues along the way versus, oh man, I didn't see that before, or, I didn't think of, that leaf, or I didn't think of any, that lamppost when they showed it.
It's like, oh man, the only person who could have solved this was Herschel Poirot, the detective, because... He's the only person who would make... He's Poirot, and he's the main character of the fucking movie. That's why he can solve it. Like, no. Like, this is like, you could solve these crimes. They're not very... Like, out, like, this one's not very out there. Like, if you follow along, you'll figure it out, because it, you know, carries you along, and it gives you the elements, and you as the viewer can figure it out. We figured out who the bomber was. We were just trying to figure out motive.
Yeah.
And once the motive is revealed, it's like, that's a little crazy, but it makes total sense with what we saw. That's why the bomb didn't go off at a certain place. That's why there's, like, a proximity detonator, so he doesn't destroy the artwork he really values. And it's, movie's clever. You get brownie points. But yeah, so, I really like this movie. It was a lot of fun.
And you really like the franchise.
Love the franchise. Love it.
So, we're coming towards the end of Anime Month.
We are. So,
how do you feel about our selections of films that we chose for this month?
I think we had a pretty good spread. If you, as a, casual anime person, wanted to get a pretty good scope, watching the movies we watched this month would probably give you a pretty decent clip into a lot of different facets. Because we had Howl's Moving Castle Week 1, which was, the Miyazaki, Disney, the acclaimed anime stuff. The stuff that's, like, really popular to just general audiences. Then we had Akira, which is kind of this really influential cult anime film that you see its influences everywhere. And it's, you probably should just give it a watch based on that. And then we had, like, Paprika, which is, like, a more psychological thriller art house anime. And then we had Case Closed, Time Bombed Skyscraper, which is a franchise anime. We could have picked, like, Dragon Ball Z or Yu Yu Hakusho or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, or we could have picked any franchise, because a lot of them just have movies. It's just, I picked Case Closed because I really like Case Closed, and more people should watch the series. Please, I want the English dub for episodes 300 to 1,000 already. There's a lot of episodes that are not dubbed in English. Yet. My dreams can come true. But, yeah, I think this is a really good spread. How did you like our trek through Anime Month? Was there any movies you had a little 50-50 on?
I mean, for me, where I'm not really an avid anime watcher, Studio Ghibli is, like, my everything now, because it's just, it's so wholesome, but so deep at the same time. So I could always use more Ghibli in my life. You know what? Needs more cowbell. But, yeah, I think it was a good spread. Akira wasn't up my alley, but I was still able to appreciate the film. Kind of got me wanting to get into, like, Dragon Ball Z, because I never really watched that growing up. So I was like, okay, I could see myself watching some of these shows that so many people love.
Yeah.
Paprika, that one was a really good movie. I mean, coming off of Perfect Blue last year, I have a feeling Satoshi Kon is another director that I'm really going to enjoy their work. And while Paprika was confusing, it still made sense, and it was just fun seeing dreams kind of...
That just raw imagination.
But seeing dreams take over reality. So that was a different concept, and, I mean, we saw it in Inception, but... Yeah. But, Paprika was more entertaining.
It did it first.
The
Simpsons did it.
They did. And then, ending on Case Closed, it was nice to end on something that you love so much, and I enjoyed it.
I am so happy you did.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's smart, it's witty, it's entertaining.
Just a hint of, like, cringy romance dialogue in there. Just a hint. Just a splash.
Just a smidge of it, but it's not, overwhelming. It's really him focused on his work, and that's what I kind of like, that it's cutesy, the romance, I like him, but I like her, but we got this,
weird sci-fi thing going on where we can't be together.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, let's focus on the mystery at hand. So, yeah, I think for people that have not watched anime and want to get into it, I think this would probably be the best way to do it, because you get a really good variety.
Yeah, and you'll figure out what each of these kind of gives you. Like, Case Closed, Time Bombed Skyscraper, it's a really decent example of what a lot of these franchise anime films are. they're pretty much just more consumable pieces of the TV show, where it's like, okay, if you watched this movie, you'll get a good sense of what the show is.
Yeah.
If you watch any of the movies, you get a good sense of, okay, this is what the show is. This is just a more digestible version of it. And if you like this, like, the show goes in weird places. And a lot of the show is a little bit more, like, adult. Like, it's dealing with a lot more, like, gruesome murder stuff, or, like, kidnappings or stuff like that. It's not just, like, you know, oh, all of Tokyo is going to be destroyed if Detective Conan doesn't solve it. It's a lot of it's a lot more personal storyline.
That, and, you know, if you're into binging like I am, it's still going on since 94, so you got plenty of seasons to watch.
Oh yeah, and that's okay, and this is the best part about Case Closed. You can jump in literally anywhere. It's all very, 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 very episodic. Like, there's not, like, these long arcs that go on for, like, 5 seasons that pay off eventually. No, it's very self-contained mystery stories. You can jump in anywhere. You can jump around all over the spectrum of the series, and you can get kind of anything. If you are interested, 2 episodes that I would really recommend are Moonlight Sonata Murders, which is wonderful, and Footsteps of the Hero, which is also awesome. And it's great if you're a huge mystery nerd, because it's all about Sherlock Holmes.
Which you are.
I'm a huge mystery nerd, yes. Those are 2 episodes. You look them up. They're really great entry points into the series. They give you a really good roundup of, okay, this is what the series is. Those are 2 of my favorites.
Okay. So, with this anime month, I'm gonna guess this was your favorite pick of the month?
I think Paprika might have been my favorite movie.
Okay.
Case Closed was just fun because I got my trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
But I think Paprika was my favorite. Akira was probably more influential and more impressive to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Howl's Moving Castle was a little bit, I think, was a more heartwarming kind of experience. It's like, oh, this is so nice. Oh, you're so cute. But, like, I think Paprika was just the best film experience out of all of these. It was most creative. It was the most transcendent of the medium. I think it had the most chew.
Really pushed the imagination.
Really pushed the visuals, really pushed the imagination, and I think it really tried to engage with us as an audience. I think Paprika was the best. But I'm curious about you. What was your favorite?
I'm gonna ask you, what do you think was my favorite?
I want to say Howl's Moving Castle because it's Miyazaki, and Miyazaki has just a pipeline to your soul.
He really does.
He really does. Is it Howl's Moving Castle?
It is, but it was tied with Paprika. And then I watched Case Closed, and I'm like, this is really good too, but I'm sticking with Howl's Moving Castle. I don't know. There's just something about Miyazaki that it just gets me. But the story too, because, you know, again, seeing clips of it does not give you what that movie actually is. And there's just so much depth in it, and there's so much history in it. And
it's a heart movie.
It's a heart movie. I mean, I even saw a meme the other day. I'm gonna have to post it on our Instagram of Howl's Moving Castle, where we see, you know, Hal and Sophie meet for the first time, and he's like, you know, darling, I've been looking, you know, so long for you, and you're thinking, oh, he's being polite, and he's saving her from the soldiers. And in the meme, it shows, you know, when she's falling through the black hole, and she's yelling, "Find me, find me." So it's like this whole thing of, well, he's known her this whole time, and he's finally found her, and I'm like, what?
Who's like, my soul?
Like, oh my god, he's been looking for her this whole time. She just had to go through her journey to, you know, finally get to this point with him. So I was like, what?
I think
the story just expanded even more.
I think that's a really interesting thing, because it's like I like the movies we picked. I picked like the head movie, you know, the movie that's like really cerebral and really like weird, and you pick the movie that's like the heart movie, the movie that's really like working like, you know, an emotional depth and like going with feeling, and it's like it's very telling as what we really preferred this month.
I mean, I can't say anything more that, you know, about this movie because I love it so much. But all of these movies that we watched this month were great, and I can't wait to watch them again. They weren't like a one and done, like, okay, you know, I watched it for the podcast, never gonna watch it again. It's like, no, I can see myself watching Paprika, you know.
One more go. Akira, I think we said, is a movie that you should, like, watching it a few times, like, that movie ages like a wine. You know, the first time might be a little sour, but you give it a little bit, come back to it, and it gets sweeter and sweeter.
That, and there's just so much to the story. It's like, you know, we had said in the episode, I think we need to watch it over and over to keep picking up those pieces that we're just missing on, you know, first go, second go.
Yeah, and that's also a thing where Akira as a film, when you go into it without context, the movie gets really convoluted really quickly. And then as it gets explained, it's one of those things where it's 80s or 90s sci-fi logic where we're explaining it, but guys, this is some bullshit we wrote when we were high. It doesn't really matter. Just wait for the Dragon Ball Z fight at the end. But that's, again, neither here nor there.
Yeah. But now that Anime Month has come to an end, I think you should tease what's coming next week.
Well, I mean, next week, we're getting into next month, boys. It's Rage Cage month. We're going to be doing a bunch of Nicolas Cage movies for the month of June.
Yes, I know. I'm hyped. Dean is, like, through the roof.
Fucking love a good Nick Cage movie.
Nick Cage movie.
Because they're all good. Well, he's at least good in all of them. Because he is an actor, even if he is an absolute dog shit, that man is giving 110%. Like, all those movies, like, we have lined up, it is him just going hard in the paint. Like, he is given to it. And they're all so vastly different performances.
Yeah, we have 5 picks for next month, and we really want to show the range of Cage because he is just so talented, versatile. So, next week's pick is very near and dear to my heart. Yes. And also important because Dean's never seen this Nick Cage movie ever.
I've never seen it. I've always thought it was a cringy romantic comedy that was like, he did it because Cher was in it.
And if that wasn't a clue enough for you, we're watching Moonstruck next week, and I'm so pumped.
I'm a little excited too because everyone, because I thought Moonstruck was like, oh, it's just like this, you know, romantic comedy, and it's Cher and Nick Cage. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird, but whatever. But everyone I bring it up to are like, no, that movie's amazing. The movie's fantastic. Told you. It's like super fun and blah 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 blah. And Nick Cage is great, and I'm like, all right, I'll go in.
I quote one of his monologues all the time from that movie.
Oh god, at least once a week. But I'm just saying, I'm going in with some pretty high expectations. My socks are at half-mast. They're ready to be knocked off by Moonstruck. Alright?
I don't think you'll be disappointed. But until then, if you want to listen to us on a different platform than you currently are, you can find us on Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.
Yes, you can find us on our YouTube channel, The Film Vault. That is The Film Vault on YouTube, where you can find the Film Club podcast, as well as the Film Odyssey podcast. So, go, show up, like, comment, subscribe, do what you do.
And if you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram at the Film Club Podcast, where we post memes, trivia, our daily adventures, weekly adventures. Give us a follow.
And with that, Boo,
we'll see you next week at the Film Club.
Have a good week, everybody.